Let's do it. We live?
We're rolling.
Nice. Welcome back, man. It's been a minute.
Some may say too long. Some may say not long enough.
That's fair. I say too long because these are fun, man.
It is fun, and we've gotten a lot of you guys out there coming in the shop saying that we got to get back on the YouTube, back on the podcast, and make some videos.
Make a little content. It's absolutely terrifying for anyone thinking of recording videos. There's absolutely no money in it and a ton of risk because stuff you said drunk on a podcast 5, 6, 10 years ago is still out there, and it gets referenced frighteningly often.
It is crazy how often customers come in referencing stuff that we've said on videos a long time ago.
Yeah, so just be careful.
Without further ado, we will continue lying to you guys that we know what we're talking about and dive right into this episode. So welcome back, everybody, to the Xhale podcast. I'm your host, Eric Xhale, and I'm here with Rodman Lees. How's it going, Rodman?
Good evening, Eric.
Good evening, indeed. What's coming up?
Well,
what's coming on the pipeline?
Monday is May 1st.
Okay.
Do you know what happens on May 1st? Two big things.
I know what happens on May 4th.
Is it May? I thought it was May 1st.
Well, I think what you're talking about is May 1st, but May the 4th be with you.
Oh, no. No, that's not what I'm talking about.
That's not. Oh, what are you talking about?
I'm talking about something that you need to do before May 5th. Because you know what happens on May 5th?
No.
Cinco de Mayo.
Oh man.
So
yeah.
Tacos, if you're going to have tacos, you know what the best kind of tacos are? Well, maybe not the best, but a very good kind of taco. Fish tacos.
Fish tacos. I agree.
And grouper and hogfish are excellent fish tacos. Season for both those guys opens up May 1st. So we were actually talking a little bit about this off camera before we started rolling. The hogfish regulations, I wasn't, when they first released it, I knew that it would help the populations, right? If people are taking less, then it shouldn't. But I had no idea how much of a difference that it was going to make. It has made a huge difference, especially in the Keys.
Yeah. So I was thinking about, this was one of my things I wrote down too.
Nice.
Talk about regs a little bit.
There you go.
Because they're more so to dive into some of the regulations revolving grouper season, and the regulations on the grouper themselves and hogfish. But like you said, today we were talking about it briefly. A long time ago, when they first introduced the hogfish regulation change, they upped the size limit and reduced the bag limit.
By a lot.
One per person per day.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was before that, but it was pretty significant.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Yeah. Might have been was it 10?
Yeah, I don't know. At least 6.
Yeah, it was a lot. More than you would need. But you kind of, with the size of hogfish, have the average hogfish was what it had gotten to, you kind of needed 6 to make a meal out of. Right?
It was crazy, and you'd see pictures especially from the Keys of those grip and grin, you're calling it the dock of death shot, and it would just be stacked with hogfish and a bunch of guys behind it, and the hogfish weren't wider than the planks on the dock. You know, it's
get a little closer to you.
Get on in here, man. So something had to be done, right? And I get it. People are going to shoot the biggest fish they see, and if the biggest fish you see it was barely legal at the time, and science is saying that this is what is sustainable, then you know what? Go for it. Shoot the biggest sustainable fish that you can. But you know the scientists looked at it. The fishing community had a say, and science had a say, and they upped it to 16 inches. And at the time, you would see a 12-inch fully snouted out male hogfish.
Yeah, sometimes even smaller.
Yeah, which is crazy. Which means that's the biggest fish in that area, or in that school at least. You know.
What I thought was interesting when we had talked to that FWC biologist about how they come up with these regulations, because I feel like a lot of recreational fishermen and commercial fishermen, for that matter, and I'm not saying that there's no aspect of this, because sometimes I see new regs come out. I'm like, what? Who even thought of this? But,
the Goliath grouper one in particular,
which we should talk about. I wrote that down as something to hit on. I have some interesting perspective that you'll probably disagree with, but we'll see. We'll see when we get there. But no, the thought process and the science that goes behind creating those regulations and the reasoning why those regulations do make a difference. I was just talking to a customer the other day who was complaining about the current regulation for hogfish, and it brought me back to that conversation with that biologist about how they did it. And there was something in particular he said that kind of stuck with me, that it was a perspective I've never even really considered, was when they change the bag limit has a different way of affecting the populations and growth rates, but the size limits are really what's changing the population over time the most. Now, I don't know if that's the case with every species, but in this case, that was like one of the main things.
All right.
I think the bag limit is more of like a short term, like let's take less fish out of the waters now, but the size requirements are more of a long-term play. And that difference, like just going from the 12 to the 16-inch fork, is it 16 or 14?
It's 16.
16. That is that much more time that fish needs to grow, and that many more spawning cycles that it has to go through. So you think of how many more baby hogfish are being put out over, 2-3 more spawning cycles, or however many it is.
Yeah, two seems about right.
Yeah, just that one fish is introducing a massive amount of hogfish back into the population, as opposed to it getting taken out when it was 12 inches.
Yeah.
So was a piece of information about it that I always thought was
and the numbers that marine biologists are throwing out were absolutely mind-boggling. It was something like the east coast of Florida, including like a lot of the northern Keys, had something like 300,000 pounds of biomass hogfish estimated. And in like 6 years, like not even that long, he was saying there's going to go to like 900,000 pounds of biomass. Like it might have been like 1 million. It was some insane number.
Yeah.
Where and the proof's in the pudding. If you go dive off of Jupiter, like people were shooting hogfish off of Jupiter for sure, but it'd be like, dude, you'd like hear about it.
Yeah.
And now, as soon as season opens up, like people will be blasting like
for sure
Bahama-sized hogs, like hogs that I wouldn't pass in the Bahamas, like good ones.
Yeah, and I like myself included. I grew up diving here. I can't really even remember ever seeing a hogfish in the Jupiter area ever.
Yeah.
Until maybe, not that they weren't here. I just didn't. I hadn't seen one. Maybe some real small ones. Until maybe 2 years after that regulation change, and then I had never shot one here. I shot my first hogfish in Jupiter 2 years after the reg change.
There you go, man.
I've shot 2 here. One of them was a 5-pound hog.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, right.
That's awesome. So that it clearly makes a difference, this kind of stuff. And honestly, the guys that were shooting hogfish before, they're still shooting a ton of hogfish now. It's not like it leveled the playing field a little bit. You got 2 of them, but
also to note, this is for our Atlantic waters.
Yeah.
The Gulf waters have a different bag limits, different sizes too now.
It might be.
And different seasons. The grouper season is way different. I don't think they do have a hogfish season in the Gulf at all. I could be wrong though.
Yeah.
Rodman's pulled up.
The best thing you guys can do is download the Fish Rules app.
Yes.
That
it'll use your GPS location and tell you for the exact waters that you're in what the regulations are. Because where some confusion does lie with a lot of people is the Keys.
Golf is open year round, and golf is 14 inches.
14 inches.
Where the Atlantic side includes the Keys, is 16, May 1st, October 31st. There you go.
And that hogfish season is also, for our Atlantic waters, shorter than the grouper season.
Yeah.
Just to clarify that as well. They share the same opening day, so that May 1st day is opening for grouper and hogs, but the hogfish season ends in October.
Yeah.
Grouper season ends
January.
Yeah,
January 1.
So there's that in a nutshell.
Boom. But speaking of regs, like, know what the regulations are. The easiest way to do that is the Fish Rules app. Just review it, or come swing by any tackle shop. Our shop here at Xhale in Tequesta, Florida, Jupiter, Florida.
FW has started dropping off their updated regulations booklets. Every time they have any updates to regulations, they build a new booklet. So does that mean we've made it? We're an official dive
FWC
shop. We're on their radar.
Yep. Shout out to Landers doing the Lord's work as an FWC field agent.
Landers didn't drop him off.
No, he's too lazy for that.
Yeah, he's too busy in the field
dealing with gopher tortoises.
One thing that I'd like to add before we branch out of the regs specifically, I think one thing people get confused about on grouper regs specifically are the aggregate bag limits. So keep in mind when you're shooting grouper for this grouper opening season, you are allowed to take home 3 grouper per day. However, if you're shooting gags and blacks, and there may be some other species on there, but it doesn't include reds, you're only allowed 1 black and 1 gag per person per day. So you can take home 1 of each, and then you can fill your third slot with something else like a red, but you cannot fill your full three bag aggregate with all blacks or all gags or even 2 of either one of those. However, red grouper is a 3 bag limit, so you can shoot all 3 of them can be reds.
Yep. One thing with reds, especially in the keys that you want to be careful of, is fish identification. A red grouper looks very similar to a Nassau grouper.
This is true.
The everything else you can find on the Fish Rules app, and you just kind of memorize it. Being able to fish ID Nassau versus a red is huge. You look for the big black saddle on their fin.
Yeah, right at what's that spot called? The caudal peduncle.
The caudal peduncle.
The caudal peduncle.
Right where the fin starts, right where it necks down to the fin.
Yep.
There'll be a big black spot. Basically, it's a spot that goes over the top. They call it a saddle.
Saddle spot.
And you can just Google Nassau grouper saddle.
If you look inside of a hole and you're like, oh my God, that's the biggest red grouper I've ever seen in my life, it's probably not.
Yeah. and they both act the same way. They look the same way. They just kind of stare at you, moving their side fins. They're pretty dumb as far as the groupers go.
Yeah, and especially underwater, dude, if it wasn't for that black spot,
forget it.
I could tell you there was a difference between them.
Yeah.
I'm sure there is. I'm sure a grouper specialist could tell me the differences, but
for sure.
For me, I'm looking for that dot.
Boom.
And Nassau grouper are completely off the table.
Yeah, you can't shoot them.
Put that out there.
Yeah.
Do not shoot. Black spot is a no-go.
It's a no-go.
Yeah. So, but keep in mind those aggregate limits. It's a little confusing how it's set up, but 1 black, 1 gag. Third spot is open for a red if you want to put a red in there.
Yellowmouth.
All 3 reds. Yeah, if you come across a yellowfin or a yellowmouth, pretty uncommon here, but does happen.
Scamp. Warsaw, dude. Get yourself a giant Warsaw.
Yeah, dude. Let's go do some drops on the 300-foot wrecks.
What's that what's that wreck right off of Lake Worth called?
I don't really know anything south of Jupiter.
Blanking on it. Every year there'll be an upwelling, and some Warsaw will swim up to this wreck, and some tech diving nutcase will go and blast one a year. Seems like they are wild looking. That giant spiked dorsal fin on there,
and it's just they just look fake,
right?
It looks like a cartoon fish.
Yeah. All right, so now let's keep talking about groupers. Where do you shoot groupers? Not on the fish. Where do you find the groupers to shoot?
I mean, it depends on what you're looking for, and you're even gonna find different groupers in different areas, as far as different regions. Up north, up here, you're gonna find a lot of your gags and stuff like that, and farther north, you're gonna find more and more gags, and an occasional black. I think Jupiter is kind of that line where you start to see a pretty good mix of both, although we do see mostly
Yeah, I'd say
mostly gags.
I'd say like Palm Beach County.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, but there's a lot of blacks get shot out of Palm Beach County and Jupiter included.
Yeah.
As well as word on the street is there's a lot of gags this year and not so many blacks.
Yeah,
That's what I've heard.
I've heard that as well.
But we'll see. We'll see what people start pulling out of the water on May 1st. But yeah, so it depends on what you're looking for. If you're targeting gags, you're going to want to stay up north generally.
Mm-hmm.
Natural structure seems to hold gags pretty well. Big, like nice high relief ledges. Obviously, artificial stuff is going to hold everything around here. But it does seem like the big gags like nice, deep, natural structure.
Yeah, and you don't need a ton of it. Like, yeah, I think people are looking for caves a lot of times. Like, if the fish can just wedge itself in there, especially gags, they hold on like pretty small hard bottom ledges.
Yeah, I think high relief is better than like depth of cave.
Yeah.
Any kind of decent natural structure that's standing up off the bottom.
Yeah, and stuff that doesn't get hit a lot. So if I'm looking for a spot, some of the stuff that I look for is clearly structure. You have to find some structure. Standalone structure, I've had really good luck with. So let's say there's like a ridge line, ledge, like running down the coast, and then there's like a little head off to the side or a little something off to the side. I always go and explore that little off the side thing.
The little sneaky ledges.
The little sneaky, like if I can see it out in the distance a little bit, swim over and check it out. I've had really good luck with that.
Yeah.
Main thing that I'm looking for though, if like, hey, should we drop in here? Drop in wherever. I'm looking for bait. If there's no like little grunts or anything else around, there might be a grouper there, but there's definitely not gonna be any big ones. Like those big ones they have to eat.
Yep.
So they're out looking for grunts and whatever little snappery type deals.
That is something that I have always known, but never really paid attention to. I've only really started paying attention to when I see like a school of grunts.
Mm-hmm.
So most of my grouper openers have been spent down in the Keys, which is like you'll see the school of grunts from the surface. And I've never really like thought about it. I'm like, oh, I'm on structure. Like, yeah, there's some grunts, but I'm not thinking about it. I'm just on the bottom. But dude, it is almost a guarantee. Every time that I've started looking for schools of grunts now, swim up on them, dive to the bottom, there's gonna be a black grouper there.
Yeah.
In the Keys.
Yeah.
Up here, gag or black.
Yeah.
But and that's as well leading into, if you want to go target blacks, honestly, I think your best bet's going to the Keys. There's going to be way more blacks around. You're not really going to even run into gags out there unless you're diving real deep for the most part.
No, blacks and reds.
Blacks and reds are going to be in the Keys. Even starting like Miami, like Biscayne Bay is actually pretty good. Seems to produce pretty
for
well.
sure. You got to be careful like where's legal to spearfish in Biscayne Bay, but like the south, like as far south as you can get, and like the south end of, what's the best way to put it? The south side north border, right? Does that make any sense? No. So the Biscayne Bay is a national park. You can't spearfish inside the national park.
Right.
The southern edge of that border, or like the northernmost edge of where you can spearfish, that line does really well.
There you go. So right on the, not inside the park.
Not inside the park, obviously.
And then as well as in the Upper Keys, you got your 3 mile limit. You're not allowed to spearfish within 3 miles in the Upper Keys.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. If you're very productive way of producing reds, dive in the bay side. The shallow holes and stuff always hold reds, but if you're the Upper Keys inside 3 miles, you're out of luck. The
Keys is a little bit more spot specific. Up here in Jupiter, there's not that much diveable area, so public numbers do really well. Like, go dive public numbers. If you're tank certified, if you're scuba certified, jump on a charter boat. Like, there's a ton of options. Our buddy is on Kailami, just to name one, but there's a ton of options for shooting grouper off of basically a guided spearfishing trip.
For sure.
But so public numbers work really well. Looking for grunts, you can look for shaded relief through any kind of shaded relief app. Like they're, what do they call that rainbow looking? So like there's Seymour Maps, there's Navionics, but you can go on the NOAA website. It's like the I can't pronounce the word. It's that really long word.
I know that you can access it through NOAA.
Yeah.
But it's so much more appealing for me to just go on the Navionics on my phone that I'm not even going to mess around with trying to get onto it through NOAA.
I kind of like the challenge of going to NOAA and looking at it. It's the it's a really long word.
Try finding anything related to NOAA by starting at like the NOAA homepage.
Oh, no. Forget it. Nope.
It is like NOAA is its own dark web.
Dude, what are you talking about? It's the government. The government does everything perfectly. Yeah. Never messes up.
Yeah, government websites have a very good reputation.
Yeah. Oh yeah. All right. So public numbers work really well. If you want to kind of find your own numbers, getting on Navionics, Seymour Maps, the NOAA website, looking at any kind of the shaded relief charts.
Yeah. And
then looking at the public numbers and then trying to find spots that kind of look like that. It's if you're just guessing, like even with that shaded relief, it can be tricky sometimes. So start with something that you know looks good, and then try to repeat that somewhere else.
Yeah.
So whether that's like a little cove in the ledge, deep spot, like anything that kind of sticks out might be worth it.
For sure. What are you have any specific tactics for attracting grouper?
So there's a handful of different tactics that you can do. So once you're in the spot, it depends on if I've seen the grouper or not. Let's start with I'm here. I haven't seen the grouper. The first thing that I'm going to do, and I'm going to do it anyway, is I'm diving in a team. But a lot of times you'll be tracking a grouper. It'll go into the hole, which is what you want, and I'll dive down, poke my head in the hole, but somewhere between me looking in the hole, I don't see the back door of the hole, and it swims away. I look in there. A flashlight really makes a big difference. Making sure we'll talk about gear later, but a flashlight is like...
You got to have it.
You got to have a flashlight. Makes a huge difference. It pops out the back door. I don't see it. I look up at my buddy who's on the surface. He's already pointing in the direction that it went. And I'm not trying to pressure the grouper, especially in the beginning. I'm slow playing the grouper, hoping that he holds up. Because a lot of times, he won't go out of the back door. He'll hole up and turn around to see if I'm following him, which is, I mean, that's perfect. They're pretty curious. They're apex predators on the reef. So they...
Once they do that turn, that look back,
yeah,
you gotta
be ready.
You gotta be ready.
Yeah, they ain't going to do it twice.
They ain't going to do it twice, and they're not going to sit there very long.
Yeah, for
Every
sure.
time I missed a giant one in the Keys a few years ago. Not on opener, but like actually at the end of season. It was right before it closed.
All right.
I don't want to talk about it.
So be ready, because a lot of times they will like dart in that hole and quickly just turn right around to look at you. So starting with not seeing grouper, I'm diving in teams. I'm looking for grunts. I'm looking for holes. I'm trying to be as thorough as possible. You don't have to cover you want to cover ground, obviously, but I don't want to race and miss anything. Try to be pretty methodical of looking for stuff. I'm wearing glasses. Like I might miss something in the distance. I'm looking left and it's over at the right. Trying to check as many little holes as possible. Depth kind of plays into this. Like if I'm diving 60 feet, I'm not just up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, but I'm trying to be fairly thorough.
One thing I'll throw out there too, if you're diving, like this is a pretty effective technique in the Keys. Here it's a little tougher because you're not really spotting fish from the surface. Mm-hmm. But if you spot a fish from the surface, don't be afraid to dive bomb that fish. Get straight over the top of them and dive right down on them. Like you don't even need to go slow.
Yeah.
You don't want to like sprint at them, obviously, but you can cruise down, close that gap relatively quickly, straight over the top of them. You're going to get a shot on that fish.
Yeah.
Dive bomb in a black grouper sounds dumb, but more productive than you might think.
For sure.
I got to lean on my boy Andy because that's his technique. and he
produces
some grouper.
Nice. I like that, and especially if I'm slow playing a fish. So now we're talking like if we've seen it, I'll slow play it, try to get it to hole up. I'm just kind of following it. Sometimes if I sprint at it, it'll dart out in the sand, and I'll never see it again.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to hold it up. Nothing happens. I'm like, screw it. Take a shot at it. If I like wing it, it's definitely gonna rock up. So like just trying to spook it enough to rock it up, and as soon as it's rocked up, game's on. Like I can get it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
In between there, throw flashers work so well. It's a really underutilized, I think, piece of kit that
on the reef in general.
Throwing a throw flasher and just doing my breathe up while I let that thing. Yeah, so it's literally, there ain't too much to it, just a reflective piece of plastic that looks like a dead fish, piece of bait, something going down. As it sinks, fish are gonna come out of the woodwork that you never saw, and they're gonna go after it. So just trying to time that a little bit, but even if just as like now I see them because they moved on it, it makes a pretty good difference, the throw flasher.
Yeah. I've had fish swim up to the throw flasher, pick it up, and swim like 10, 15 feet with it and drop it and just keep cruising around.
Yeah.
Like, they love those things.
Yeah, in the Bahamas, the strawberry groupers are insane with that.
Yeah.
The
dog snappers I've had pick it up.
Really?
Yeah. Weird.
So the throw flashes work really good. You know, I hate to say chumming because you're going to bring in sharks, which is like its own bag of issues. But let's say you accidentally chum, your buddy shoots a grouper. I can't tell you how many times someone has shot a grouper and another grouper has come out because it smells blood in the water.
Oh, yeah. That, or you shoot it and it rocks up and you're like working on a rocked up fish for a while. You dive down, you're finagling this thing. You're hyper focused in on that activity.
Yeah.
Like what's going on right there in front of you. And then you go take a second and look around, and there'll be like a crowd of grouper just like, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah. For real.
Get a whole audience.
It's super, that's hard to like, to do because you've already shot the grouper at that point. But like, you know, I've seen people like chumming for a red snapper and giant blacks coming off the bottom into like basically to the surface, following the chum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So sandballing is a pretty effective technique for chumming them. Again, probably not a technique. It maybe is effective here. We just have so much current that it's probably not, unless we get a day that's just like slow current. But in the Keys, dude, on those like 50, 60 foot spots, even sometimes a little deeper, those sandballs, the whole concept behind the sandball, if you don't know, is, well, I know you know. If anybody watching doesn't know, the sandball is chum packed with sand, and you can drop it, and that thing will cannonball down to the bottom and disperse its chumminess on the bottom instead of through the entire water column.
Yeah.
So all those bottom fish are going to be more attracted to it. And a lot of the commercial guys in the Keys won't do it any other way.
Yeah.
And anytime you're going to chum, you risk inviting sharks to the
sharks
party.
Are going to show up.
Sandballing, definitely likely to show up, but little less likely than if you're like chunking bait on the surface, like chunking up fish on the surface. So because that stuff gets right down to the bottom and just kind of fizzles out.
And if you don't want to do that, if you don't want to risk it, do the throw flashers. Still super effective and no scent for sharks.
There you go.
Yep. I am. Yeah, man. So we talked about reds. We talked about the regs, finding structure on maps. I'm looking for bait once you found the structure. Like, what's better structure versus worse structure? If the structure is the same, well, the one that has the bait on it is going to be what you want. Public numbers work really well. Public boats produce. Like, go out on a tank charter. If you're looking for something off the beaten path, look at those public numbers. What do they look like? And then try to find that somewhere else on the map.
Use those shaded maps.
Those shaded maps work really, really well. throw flashers. I work really well as far as kit. Another thing for kit is going to be a flashlight. If you're in the Bahamas, you got to use a pole spear.
We'll talk about gear.
All right.
Next.
All right.
I think we can dive into what's your grouper kit.
Sounds good.
I want to ask you one thing first.
Oh yeah. Shoot.
How important is grouper opening day to you?
In theory or in practice?
In as a whole.
As a whole, I think it's freaking cool. I think it's super cool, and I wish that I could geek out on it more. My schedule, the schedule gods always part the clouds and make it just like a terrible.
Yeah.
Like the schedule
Monday this year.
never works out for me for some reason, but I think it's freaking awesome, and I would love to get my crew of dive buddies together and make like an annual Keys opener trip, or even if it was just like an annual local trip. Like, hey, on May 1st we dive.
Yeah.
But I don't have that, so like to me, I like when it opens, but I'm as soon as it opens, and I'm diving grouper as much as I possibly can.
Yeah, that's kind of what everybody wants to target year round anyway.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
It's like everybody's shooting mangroves and muttons in between because it's the only thing available here.
For sure, it's a little bit like mini season for me, where I want to love mini season. In the past 2 years, I've gone out at like midnight and done that whole deal.
Yeah.
But if I'm not making it, I'm doing it kind of solo. Not solo, but like, if there's not like a tradition behind it, it's less cool for me. So like I go scalloping every year, and scalloping's like the laziest, easiest. It's not spearfishing. Like my 5-year-old son gets scallops. Like there's nothing to it.
You more fired up on scallops?
I'm more fired up on scallops because it's like we do a whole trip for it. Like
yeah,
it's a huge deal for like my family and family. It's like my wife and 2 kids go with another, like one of my best friends, his wife and their 2 kids, and like it's just awesome. So I'm super freaking fired up. I'd love to have something like that for grouper season, but I don't. So it's sick. I love it. Shooting grouper in Florida is like is about as cool as you can get as far as reef diving goes. But because I don't have that just the social connection of it, it's less cool for me.
Yeah. I've never like cared about grouper opener until the past 2 years we hit opening day and had a blast with like pretty much the same crew too.
Yeah.
So it's like we had the social aspect.
Yeah.
We're starting the tradition, I feel
nice.
like.
I like it.
On. Although this year we're not actually going out on opening day because it's on a Monday and nobody can go on the Monday.
Yeah.
So we're going to go the weekend after, but even still I'm just like fired up on the idea of like
yeah,
we're not hitting it opening day, it's like
but you're doing like your annual grouper trip,
it's close,
you know.
Close enough.
I like that.
Plus something about just the ideology of like it's opening weekend.
Yeah. No, there's something.
I grew up hunting too, and like
yeah,
opening. Like my dad would reschedule everything, work, school, everything. Like opening day of turkey season and opening day of deer season, we're at camp. We're in the woods.
Yeah.
There's the schedule is going to change to what it needs to be.
That day is blocked off.
It's blocked off.
I like that. I want that for grouper and lobster and hog. Like I want that. I just haven't organized that yet. So in theory, that's why I asked like in practice or in theory. Because in theory, I'm freaking fired up on it. Like I want to have that, but I just don't yet.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
We're both pretty busy these days.
The young and it's like I got the 2 kids, and so like as a dad, I really want them to be involved.
Yeah.
And so like scallops, they can do that. Where a grouper, like they're not. They need like 2-3 more years before they're like really competent enough in the water to maybe not shoot them, but to be competent enough in the water to be part of it.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard to do like a solo Keys vacation. Like, hey, leave the kids with the missus and just skip town. But I do that enough. I do that enough already.
All right, so gear.
No. First, what were you gonna say about regs with Goliaths?
Oh, so outside of, I'm not talking about the like the tag system.
Okay.
That's what you thought I was talking about. But there's a proposal on the table that's getting a lot of pushback, where they're talking about shutting down a handful of dive sites in Palm Beach County and Martin County during the Goliath grouper spawn.
If we disagree on this, I'm going to be upset.
I don't think we disagree, but I thought of an aspect of it.
Oh my God.
To play it in as good a way as possible.
All right, let's hear your devil's advocate, because you are advocating for the devil right now.
So they're basically in it. To be fair, I don't fully know the extent of the proposal. My understanding is that they are closing down fishing, spearfishing, and diving in general, but I don't know that for sure. If they are allowing recreational diving, like the people that are going out and photographing them, which they definitely will say that they don't, but they're also probably feeding them to get some of these pictures, and they just like to feed them.
Yeah.
Not everyone, but there's definitely a lot of them that do. If they're still allowing the recreational diving with them, but banning or closing the fishing and spearfishing, I'm against that completely. If they're closing diving altogether, I'm kind of looking at it as like a closed season on some spots that have a ton of pressure in our area to start with. Because the spots that they're talking about are some of the most popular artificial sites to dive, fish. They're like easily accessible. They're all within like medium freediver range, you know? So like they just get shredded all the time. If they close them down for the whole season, we're going to have an opening day for like some of our most popular spots. Imagine day one, because nobody's really going to go like, that spot's finally open, and let's go out and dive it today. Imagine day one diving some of these artificials that haven't been dove on or fished on in however long.
2 months, 3 months. It would be productive. The problem is that it's like feel good pseudoscience. I haven't seen any data to back up that spearfishing disturbs the spawn at all. Yeah. They do not care at all about divers. Go on Nick Bailey's Instagram, you can see him like just petting one. Like they're 400 to 600 pound giant animals in their environment. They don't care at all that some like 150 pound diver is swimming near them. If anything, they're like aggressive to us. Could I get one to like grunt at me and swim away? For sure, if I harassed it enough. But freedivers in particular, these are like 60-foot wrecks, which like I'm no William Trubridge, I'm no Ryan Myers. I'm like 60 feet spearfishing's like about right, and I'm not going down and harassing Goliaths. I'm down there to hunt and shoot fish. Like I'm not messing around. Like we're not shooting the fish. We're not shooting the Goliaths. We're not shooting their prey, allegedly. They say that they eat like mostly lobsters and not game fish, which as soon as you shoot a game fish, what's the first thing that eats it? A Goliath. We're not targeting them. We're not targeting their prey fish, and we're not harassing them. So like I don't see why we're doing that. If they wanted to do anglers, because sometimes there's bycatch with anglers, and anglers hook them and can stress them out, but I doubt that there's going to be any difference in the successful breeding, the success of the spawn, whether free divers, scuba divers, spearfishermen are there or not, or tank divers.
If anything, the recreational diving and photographing that's going on is probably more disrupting to their spawning than a couple freedivers laying around like shooting at something every now and then.
And to your point of like an opening season, like what if we so if they wanted to make a closed area for spearfishing, so if they took like Governor's Walk or like any of like the big rec areas, big artificial areas, and said there's no fishing or spearfishing or anything like that, no taking of game fish in this area, it would put all the divers there because all the fish would be there. They could all spawn, and the like the result in the surrounding area I think would be awesome. I'm all for making like a little safe zone for fish, like or do like the whole do the Breakers Reef and Governor's Walk. I think that would change the game.
Look at like Peck's Lake area.
Yeah.
You know, you're allowed to fish there, but not allowed to spearfish inside of the park, right? You can't fish.
You can lobster.
You can lobster, but you can't lobster. Yeah. But that whole area is like the whole surrounding area around Peck's Lake. It is an abundant spot.
Yeah.
Abundant area.
And it look at the Keys is has done that really well of like marking off little areas that you can't fish in, and they're covered up in fish, and people fish like the barrier of it. Okay, you know, like the having a nursery for fish to grow up and spawn. I'm all for that.
And there's a border for a reason. You can die if you're on the right side of the border.
Yeah,
you're on the right side of the border. I don't care if you're 1 foot.
Yeah,
don't shoot across it.
Don't shoot across it. I'm all for that, but this like, oh, we're doing it to protect the Goliath spawn, like it's disingenuous politics is super frustrating for me in general.
And I think what you said about it, like, there's not, at least I haven't seen much like data produced about it.
Yeah,
you know, other than like a group of recreational divers that dive with them during the spawn have said that they've seen less the past few years.
And
okay, have they?
Yeah. And like imagine there's some fluctuation in the viability of Goliath spawns in general anyway.
So the CCA, which is they've been around,
Coastal Conservation Association, Alliance, Association.
One of those.
I'm a member. I should know.
They do a ton of awesome
work.
They're highly against it.
Yeah, they have a awesome like benefit, a silent auction, deal at the Palm Beach like business center, whatever that place. What is that? What's that place called? Right across from Kravitz Center. The convention center, the Palm Beach Convention Center. They have an awesome.
The convention center.
Convention center.
Yeah.
They have an awesome event every year there.
Nice.
Killer silent auction. But yeah.
Well, they have a pretty good statement that they've released about it, and they're pushing back against the FWC on it. So it's nice to have like a big organization arguing for it or against it rather. But there's also open comment boards on FWC. If you go on our Instagram, there is a link to the open comment section for it. So whatever your opinion is on the matter, you should go to the FWC website and voice your opinion on it.
Yeah.
It's for the greater good.
Yeah. Sounds good. It's interesting that they've opening a season and closing fishing at the same time. Like, I can shoot them, but I can't swim near them.
We can't shoot them.
Well, not in Palm Beach County, but they opened a statewide Goliath grouper season.
Yeah.
Not in Palm Beach and Martin counties.
Which is a completely different thing that we could go on.
Yeah, but it seems like if the population's growing enough to have a season,
I know what you're saying.
Then why are we? Yeah,
that whole season and the issues revolving around it are its own discussion, because that is a cluster to say the least.
Yeah,
just seems so dumb.
Bureaucrats, man.
So dumb.
Bureaucrats. All right, gear for grouper and hogfish May 1st. What are you bringing? What are you packing?
So I guess there's two aspects to this, because the opening of grouper and hogfish season also designates the time when you can legally come back from the Bahamas with grouper and hogfish.
I talked to an FWC guy about this the other day, and he unfortunately was like a little wishy-washy about it, so I'm not going to say his name, but he said that if you're like stamped in, cleared, and you haven't stopped, that you're good to go. But I've had FWC officers say you have to be following the rules of the waters that you are in.
If one FWC officer has told me that, which I've had multiple FWC officers tell me that.
The second part.
Yes.
Yep.
I'm not trying to get pulled over and gamble on which officer I'm going to get to say you're good or you're not.
For sure. It's so silly because like they're shipping fish year round.
Yeah.
So like is that freighter breaking the law?
Nah, there's I forgot the act. There's like a government act for international shipping of commercial.
So if you're rich enough, it's cool.
Exactly.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. So well, that being said, there's maybe we can talk about Bahamas stuff as well. But for Florida, like I said, me personally, I'm usually running down to the Keys for grouper season. Last season, I brought my 55 Marauder, 55-inch Rife Marauder, shooting an 8mm double flopper shaft, 3 9/16 spans, and it was vastly overkill.
I was just going to say, holy dude, them Keys hogs didn't know what hit them.
Not necessarily for the hogs, but definitely I brought it for the grouper because I figured we would be diving a little bit deeper than we were. We ended up and still end up usually diving pretty shallow stuff for the most part. My go-to setup, I'm going to bring 2 guns. I'm running a 120. This year I'm going to use the JBL Reaper 120
nice,
with a roller muzzle on it, and a 70-centimeter pipe gun.
That Reaper's a freaking sweet pipe gun. I really like the Reaper. That thing is a workhorse.
Let her rip, dude.
I like that.
Plus the 120 with the roller on it's a no-brainer for me. I love the versatility of the 120 rollers. It's such a well-rounded gun. Just kind of, it's got plenty of power for anything you want to do, but it's still like thin, maneuverable. It's got decent range. It's just a good gun, man. I dig me a 120 roller, single-banded roller.
I like that.
Standard. None of that inverted stuff. Not that there's anything bad about it.
Well, you went. It's not like you didn't try it.
I definitely have tried it all.
You've tried it all.
Tried it all. Inverted.
I don't know if you guys can see the Seawolf in that gun right there.
Yeah.
Is a compound roller, 4 bands on the bottom, right?
And I love that
4
gun.
bands
Actually,
on the bottom.
I shot the last fish I shot on that gun was a black grouper in the Keys on opener.
There you go. That's a sweet gun, man.
That was pretty much like I brought that gun on that trip with the intention of shooting something with it and kind of hanging it up.
Yeah.
So that may very well be the last fish that gun ever shoots, under my hands at least.
You gonna put it on the ceiling or?
I'd like keeping it off the ceiling just in case.
Gotcha.
I do love that gun.
Fair.
And I'm not hating on inverted rollers or anything like that. It's just shoot what works for you. If you like that stuff and you're comfortable shooting it, go for it. But I'm bringing the single-banded roller and a short gun. So I said a 70-centimeter pipe gun, but actually I'll probably be shooting I got a Rife Euro 55-centimeter.
Nice.
Micro Mini, that whole gun. And that's what I use for shooting reds on the Gulf.
Yeah.
In the Gulf, or in the Bayside. All the waters that we dive in the Bayside are considered Atlantic state waters still. So, it's
cool.
Technically on the Gulf side, but whatever.
All right.
So that's my gun setup, my quiver.
Awesome.
What are you running?
I'm running a 2-banded Reaper 120, and then I have a tiny micro roller, which I absolutely love. That thing's like, I cut it down from a bigger barrel, so I'm not exactly sure how big it is, but let's call it 70 centimeters,
it's
70, 80 centimeters.
It's
70.
Something.
We'll call it 70.
It's around there.
Between 60 and 80. 60 and 80, somewhere in there. And I put a roller on it, and I love that gun. It is a awesome hole gun. Rollers have like a bad reputation of not being good hole guns for their reasons to back that up. But that little gun, I can stick into holes and still got enough power to like punch a good fish and shoots a big enough shaft. Like I love that gun. It's not great for like open water stuff. It's still a short gun. You have to like respect the like what it is.
Yeah.
But for around reef, for the keys, that thing is like, especially Bayside keys.
Yeah.
That's a
no-brainer.
perfect gun
No-brainer.
for that. Great hole gun.
Before I got my 55 centimeter rife, which is a extraordinarily small gun. I mean, it is built for shooting inside of holes and stuff. I was shooting my 70 centimeter pipe gun, roller pipe gun, with like hand loadable 9/16 gun on it. Dude, I loved that thing down there. It was a red grouper menace.
Yeah. And that's what's fun about the keys too, is that, like, that shallow red grouper stuff is a lot of fun. But gear that I'm bringing, so those two guns, gonna have a flashlight,
Gotta have the flashlight,
and gonna have a flasher.
There you go. Like,
plus a knife and like all my weight belt, and all the standard stuff. But for grouper season, I'm going to definitely have a flashlight. Gonna try to have a flasher.
I'm also bringing some extra shafts.
Yeah.
It is amazing how small of a black grouper will bend your shaft up. Maybe not into a pretzel, but enough to make you miss the next one.
Yeah.
So I usually bring, for my larger gun, which this year I'll bring that 120 Reaper, I'll bring probably at least one extra shaft for it. We're only going to be there 2 days, so if I bend 2 shafts in 2 days, I'll be stoked.
That's good. Yeah, man. That's it. A reel. I'll have a reel on my gun just to make sure that I'm doing it. But
and that, I mean, outside of, like, I feel like we're talking about grouper and hogfish season, and we've only talked about stuff related to grouper. But it's all, hogfish are just kind of like, they just kind of show up.
Yeah.
You don't need to specialize.
The only difference with hogfish is if I'm targeting hogfish, I'm really looking in like hard bottom feather beds, like the sea fans and sponges, and like
we've all got a spot on the GPS that's like Hog City,
hog heaven. Yeah,
just go to Hog Heaven and get your hog.
Yeah,
and then go shoot grouper like
it's
like the rest of the
do it the other way. Go get your grouper first, and then when you got it, or you got your tail tucked between your legs, either way,
tired of chasing grouper.
Tired of chasing it, you can go shoot a hog and feel even better about yourself. Either way, I'm the man, or I'm still the man. The hogs are pretty straightforward, and that's like with that bigger gun too is kind of nice for that 120 is kind of nice for the hogs. I don't have to get close. I can see them. If I can see it, basically, I can shoot it.
Well, especially here, if I was diving opening day here, I'm not bringing my short gun.
No, you have to have the big gun for here.
I'm diving my big gun.
Yeah.
I would probably shoot the 55 Marauder.
Yeah. You need the big gun for here. They know the game. It's deep.
60,
they're
70,
they're running back into structure really quick. You got to be able to like hit them from a distance and rip them out of there pretty good. Like.
So that 2-gun quiver, that's my key setup here for the.
You don't need the small one.
You don't need it.
You don't need it.
And it's probably maybe not the smartest thing to run a throw flasher here, because you're definitely gonna lose it.
You're definitely gonna lose it.
So let's try to avoid dumping a bunch of pieces of PVC pipe on the bottom.
Yeah, I mean, if you're diving if you're crawling the bottom, if you're crawling the bottom, you can use it. Yeah. But if you're on like any of the wrecks or the ledges, the current's ripping so bad too that like I'll get on the next drift. No, you won't.
No, you ain't seeing it.
You ain't seeing it ever again. But someone should come out with like single-use throw flashers. The dissolve.
Cornstarch. Just pack it up tight. Like those styrofoam. Packing peanuts.
Styrofoam packing peanuts.
By the time it gets to the bottom, it's just liquid.
Yeah, something sugar. Make it out of sugar. I don't know.
All right,
that'll do it.
Anything else you want to add?
No. If you need any of this stuff, come by. I'm Xhale. We're in Jupiter, Florida, right off Center Street. Or hit us up on the website, man.
www.xhalespearfishing.com.
There you go.
Got
If
it
you need
all.
anything re-rigged, got any questions, if you just want to come by and hang out, we're doing barbecue this Friday.
Oh, good
4
mention.
4 to 7. Get some free pulled pork.
There you go.
Should have put that in the beginning.
Free
Should have
pulled
led with free food.
Yeah. Come hang out. This
Bring
Friday,
your own beer. We'll bring the food. You bring the beer.
What's the date? The 28th.
The 28th, right before.
There you go. Pre-grouper season party.
Boom.
Come get your spare shaft
Flashlight.
and a flashlight. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. We will see you in the next one. If there's something you want to hear us talk about, let us know. Leave it down. Leave a comment. Later.